Welcome to the Small Business Evangelist radio show, the show that brings you candid interviews, case studies, and cross-industry insights to help you accelerate your own small business success. Here's your show host and small business evangelist, Jack Schoenberger.
Welcome, everybody. Today's interview is with the principal consultant at Simpatico Consulting, Christopher Dube. Chris, welcome to the show today. Starting off, I'd like to just have you tell me a little bit about Simpatico Consulting and what you guys do for your clients there, and who are the people you're really trying to help.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jack. Thanks for having me on today. I think what you're doing is great, getting stories out there of people that are 99% of the businesses in this country, getting those stories out to other people that are thinking about doing that same thing or in the process, and could be coming up against some obstacles is pretty important. So I appreciate you having me on to share my story. Simpatico Consulting is, and really the reason why it exists, is a way for me to meet people who lead and then provide the ability to give them an advisor that my passion is solving problems. And it's solving problems in a unique way so that they benefit with their business. And it's really around the management of resources inside of any business. And one of the many reasons that a company has success over the long term, or they have some troubles. And that's usually around three things: time, money, and people. So as we know, you being an entrepreneur yourself, and I'm sure a lot of people out there that are listening, having a fine handle on how to manage those resources. In most cases, when you're inside the storm and you're trying to make sure that everything is functioning correctly and be the most efficient, productive, and profitable entity that you can, some of those objective points of view can slip out of focus a bit. So where I come in is give them the gift of time, my time to come in, look at things from their perspective, from an objective point of view, and find a common thread so that at the end of the day, we can take their ideas on issues that we uncover together collaboratively and build a plan, build a solution, a direction, a path that will get them to achieve their vision. Because whether it's my business or someone else's, we all do this for a reason. What is that why? And that's the most important thing to me, so that at the end of the day, they can achieve realizing their vision and end up building their best business along the way. That's really what it is that I do. So,
great. Now, what's your ideal client? Do you have a sweet spot that you're looking for? Who you try to help?
In most, I mean, my business is about 90% referral. So really, I go and try to partner with what I would call day one advisors. So the people that were involved in the situation with helping to build that entity, with that visionary, that entrepreneur, such as an attorney, a CPA, a venture capitalist, those type of people that really helped build the infrastructure that companies had success on. And then from there, those people, because they're busy as well running their businesses, I provide them a resource, a trusted advisor. And everything I do is based around trust, value, and the ability to have a reliable something there that will help no matter what the business type is. My main focus for the business is in the tech and construction worlds. I've kind of taken on this task to bring those two completely diametrically opposed industries together because of many reasons. And we can talk about some of that stuff a little bit later or in a different time. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what type of business it is. Every business is made up of people. And that's my focus, to help people understand what's going on inside their business and provide the resources that they may need. So if it's a restaurant, I'll still go and help them out. My main focus and my main goal, my mission, if you want to call it that, is to bring the tech and construction worlds together so that at the end of the day, everything that grows in our infrastructure, whether it's local, nationwide, or global, has the ability to benefit from the power that those two industries have when you combine them and they're speaking the same language.
That's awesome. I know that when we were communicating before the interview and you were sharing a little bit about your background, it really gave me started to give me a better perspective on how you really can come in at the 30,000 foot level and an objective standpoint and kind of look at it. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey? How, where you started, how you got the entrepreneurial bug, and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. I didn't really realize some of the unique aspects of my story until you start really talking to other entrepreneurs and asking them how they got into it and where they started. If someone were to ask me the date in which I decided to become an entrepreneur, I would have no idea what that answer is. And it's mostly because I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So at a very young age, I saw my dad and my mom operating a household with, you weren't going to work for someone else, you were going to work for yourself. So really it's that mentality of way back when you're leaving the house, you really have to produce and have that top of mind, that mindset that you're going to succeed and there wasn't really going to be any barriers there. And if there were, you had to find a way to get through them, whether it was going over, under, or through. There had to be a way for you to overcome the obstacle. So, my parents started a shoe manufacturing company. Actually, it started with my grandfather. He started the first rendition of the family business. And that was probably back in the 50s or 60s. I'm originally from Maine, so back in that time, Maine was known as a pretty industrial and manufacturing-rich community. They used a lot of resources for getting electricity and having a lot of the materials that were necessary to build quality products, American-made. And so from that, my dad joined him at a young age. Then my grandfather left the business. My dad was able to take advantage of a great opportunity with their largest client, sell that company, and then start a new one. And that situation happened all the way up until what we have now, which is our third generation shoe manufacturing company, with my dad being the president and my brother being the vice president and head of marketing. So the company itself is a family-run, third-generation, American-made shoe manufacturing company that produces quality products in the United States. They've had a lot of success, and I'm very proud of what they've accomplished. And from a young age, seeing that and seeing them have that type of success and how hard they work, it's always kind of been ingrained in me to want those same things. So when I started my first company, I was actually 21 years old, just had moved to the West Coast. I was living in Southern California and didn't really have an opportunity to work for myself at the time that I got out there, but was shortly thereafter presented with an opportunity to sell live Maine lobsters wholesale and retail to the people of Southern California. So I said, you know what, I'm not doing anything else. I'm working as a part-time personal trainer in a gym out here, so why not? I just started having conversations. And I think that's the most important thing if you're going to start a business, is just, if it's really something that's interesting to you, you should talk to people about it. And that's kind of what happened. It spawned this company that had made quite a large amount of money in a short amount of time, probably too much for a 21-year-old kid, which gave me this mindset of, I don't understand why everyone's talking about running a business. It's so difficult. I just kind of had this fall in my lap, and this is fantastic. So I took the ability to grab some of that capital, and by the age of 23, started my second company, which was a live promotion and events company in Southern California. So live music, outdoor events, venues, things of that nature. So a lot of overhead. And long story short, it brought me to Las Vegas, where that is the way of life there. So I was a tadpole in the ocean and learned a lot of lessons. And those lessons took all of the capital that I had gained and brought it back down to where it started, which was zero. So I pretty much lost everything on that venture. Learned a lot about people, learned a lot about business, learned a lot about the things, the little intangibles that if someone were to try to tell you every step, they would have the intention of getting those things out. But because there's so much, you just have to go through it. It's kind of like trying to explain to someone what the feeling is like of skydiving. You would never know unless you actually jumped out of the plane. And then it would be more of the feeling that they had and not really the step-by-step process. That's exactly what the situation was like for me. So 23, 24 years old, I pulled myself back to the West Coast and dragged my butt back to Maine and got into the corporate world. I did day one consulting from there. And that was across many different aspects of business, from marketing, advertising, brand management. I was doing speaking and some sales training with sales consultants, sales people, sales management, executive teams. And I did this in a corporate environment, and I also did this in the startup world. And it was that nagging feeling back there of always not having some success and really being able to help people, but there's always that little voice inside going, I'm not quite feeling totally fulfilled with this. And so that's where it brought me to Simpatico. And Simpatico now, for me, is something so much more than even when I was 21 and having this immediate kind of lightning flash success. I have a lot more to bring to the table, a lot more experiences. And I think the biggest one is the people aspect of going through business. And that's the thing that you really can't have anyone tell you. You have to go through that on your own. And something that I'm the most proud of, because that's how I run my business. Simpatico, by definition, means the ability for people to be on the same wavelength and work well together towards a common goal. And I came to that over the last 17 or 18 years of my professional career through all of those different walks of life. And it's led me to here so that I can try to really provide value and determine what the value is in each situation. And the main reason I think we're talking today.
Well, it's when you bring up value. How do you define value?
Well, first, I think it's important to kind of bring up what the universal definition of value is. So I wrote an article on LinkedIn towards the beginning of this year about value. I feel value is really important, along with trust and reliability, in order to create any type of relationship. So I used Oxford Dictionary's definition of value, which is the regard that something is held to deserve the importance, worth of that something. So really, in my perspective, that means perception of what something is worth. Now, to me, for something that's so highly regarded and talked about so often in business, for it to have an ambiguous meaning and kind of cloudy definition, I wasn't okay with that. So I created my own definition. And my own definition of value is the tangible dynamic realized at a time of true need. So what does that mean? What that means is there's always something missing in some instances and situations, whether it's personal or professional. In my case with consulting in Simpatico, it's a professional something, a question mark. And if I can understand where people are coming from in not being able to see that question mark or that gap inside of their business or their business plan or whatever type of process it is, the value that I bring to them at a time of true need is the ability to see where they're coming from, show them a different perspective, and then have them say, wow, that's fantastic. That's an actionable thing that we can put in, and this is the exact right time to be hearing this. Thank you. That, to me, is the definition of value. Okay,
that makes all the sense in the world to me. So now that you've defined it, how does Simpatico Consulting bring value to your clients and partners?
Yeah, there are many different ways. It's very situational. So when I'm working with clients, I'm working with, first and foremost, people, not a client or a business or the issue. I'm working with people to solve problems in their business. So what I have to do is I have to see what they see, the why behind it's a problem. Why is it a problem, or why is it not a problem? And that differentiates greatly between the way that they see it and the way that I could potentially, or even anyone else for that matter. Listening is a true skill in what it is that I have to try to reproduce and be consistent with on a daily basis. And the way that they see it sometimes differs from the way that I see it. So what is the tying factor there? It's funny, Dr. Phil had a quote, and I know I'm quoting Dr. Phil now, that there is no reality. There's only perception. So identify the filters through which you view the world. And what that means to me is, if I can do that, if I can perceive what it is that they're using in order to come to a conclusion, and then I can start to find that missing valuable piece to help them progress their situation in a positive manner, that to me is delivering value. Whether they decide to implement it or not, which is something that I give them that choice inside of our time together. I try to distinguish my consultancy firm and the time that I spend with the people that I meet differently than other consultancies. I'm willing to spend up to 5 hours with business owners and leaders to try to dictate what it is that's going on and to get a real working sense of, do we work well together? Are we on the same page? And I do that at no charge. After that, and we have ideas that are brought from the air above us down to a real working plan on paper, I give them the ability to say, we can do this ourselves. And what I'm trying to do is cause that connection, to show them that I'm not just there to charge them by the hour or by the project on a retainer or something of that nature, but more of every opportunity to get in contact with someone is an opportunity to connect, to create a relationship, which at some point will produce the things that will benefit both of us. The holistic currency, I guess you could call it in quotes, is the first thing that I'm always paid in. And then after that follows the financial aspect of the relationship. So that is really how Simpatico and I deliver the value. Perception is reality. You have to understand what that is from them, and then how can I look at things just by a little different angle in order to give them a perspective maybe they hadn't thought about before.
Have you ever gone into a business and during your process, have your clients had an aha moment as far as you help them understand that what they thought the true value they were bringing, that they were actually bringing a whole other level, a whole other means or of bringing value to their clients? Have you been able to help clients identify that?
Yeah, it's great that you bring that up, actually, Jack, because that's a win, right? I mean, in any situation, when you're dealing with issues around dealing with critical resources and managing those resources, I mean, people look at time and money as commodities, but you can't buy time with money, and they're only finite things that we have. So how do you manage those things and not treat them as commodities? Same thing with people. There's only a finite amount of people that either believe what it is that you believe and will work for you and produce the things that you want to produce. So those things really need to come into play. And when we're talking, that's what I'm trying to get to first and foremost. Maybe it's something that they just skipped over, they thought about, or had brought up in a previous brainstorming session, and it just slipped through the cracks somehow. If I can help them get back to where they were, my main purpose is to allow a really easy way to go from where they are to get to where they want to be. And they may have already found that before we spoke. If I can bring that back to them, then that's a win. And if outside of that they haven't thought of something that may have come up, we'll implement a plan in order to make sure that it's the most simplistic way for them to get success and to make that journey from where they are to where they want to be.
So once you help your clients identify that, do you have a set of partners that you use then that can help them implement, or do you actually do some of those services for them? How does that part of it work whenever you actually find the things that need the action items that need to happen?
Yeah. So there are, because my focus is in the tech world and in the construction world, but yet I will meet with the time I have in my schedule, any business that I'm referred into, no matter what the industry is. Where I start to use and vet partners is extremely important, because I want to know that if I'm going to be helping a restaurateur, or I'm going to be helping someone that's developing a commercial lending institution for commercial real estate development, and they're just starting out, I want to make sure that I'm able to connect them with the resources that can deliver what it is that we put down in that plan. So I vet partners all the time. Like I said in the very beginning, Simpatico is really a way for me to meet some of the most interesting people probably in the world and in the United States. It gives me the ability to find and speak with people who lead businesses, organizations, and sometimes who just are leaders but aren't part of those situations. And everyone has a specific something that they can bring to the table of a positive nature for someone else. So I'm constantly categorizing those things and those people, and I've developed a process to determine and deliver value. I've also, for myself, developed a process to vet partners and really see if we can achieve simpatico so that we can work together and I can have the true trust and reliability factor at an all-time high so that I can recommend them into businesses. So if I'm working with that commercial, that entrepreneur who's starting up a commercial lending institution for commercial land development, that wouldn't be inside the tech or the construction world. Maybe construction a little bit, but I would then recommend them based off of the conversations that we've had, the goals that they want to accomplish, and the plan that we put together. I would then create an introduction to one of my strategic partners that could then sit with them, play the role that I've kind of played up until that point, and have them build the rest of the plan going forward. I'd also introduce them to resource partners, people that provide trusted services that every business needs across everything from finance to operations to sales and advertising, marketing. All of those different arms of the business have very specific people that I work with. And if I trust them and they trust me, I have great assurance there that what it is, the value I'm bringing to that new entrepreneur that I'm helping, when I'm not there any longer or having minimal contact, that handoff is seamless, and assurance value is being portrayed there by the partner that I would then introduce in, because they know exactly how things work. They know how I work. I know how they work. And really, there's no drop-off in communication or the ability to transfer from stage 1 to stage 2 and so on until that vision is accomplished. So I take that very seriously, and it's very important to my business model and to any client that I come across.
That's fantastic. Have you ever had a client that turned into a partner?
Yes, actually, I have. And that situation is kind of a perfect proof of concept, right?
Right.
You want to parade that around on a billboard that hangs above your head. But that is the premier situation when someone that you've helped or you've trained in some aspect goes on to start their own thing and have success, and then come back and say, hey, I want to start helping you help more people like this. How do we do that? I had a gentleman that I trained, I would say probably 6 or 7 years ago, out of the Boston area. A fantastic kid, really, really smart, had all the drive in the world. And just 2 years ago, I got back in contact with him just to see what he was up to. And he had started a business in that same space that we had first met in, having great success. And he is now involved in the process of simpatico, and a resource that I could then tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, I need you to kind of run with this, and here's the situation. And we would have to say no more than that. He would know exactly where we're going from there. So that's a huge compliment to him and the process, and something of why I try to stick to that same process over and over again, because it really does work and everyone benefits in the end.
Well, I think not only that is as an example of success, but I think just that most of your business comes from referral. I think that speaks very highly of the value you're providing, to your clients. So, congratulations on that. If you had, with the people that are listening and realizing it, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, what would be like the one thing that you would like to share that they can take away from this as kind of like a actionable aha moment for them?
Yeah. I would say that connect the common threads to produce uncommon results. That is the key to not only professional relationships, but also personal relationships. Scott Dinsmore, who is the founder of Live Your Legend, had a quote that I love, and it says, approach each interaction with everyone in your life, business or personal, as you would a good friend. And if you can do that, that gives you the ability, the foundation to find those common threads. That's where it all starts. And then to be able to connect those things together that form a tapestry that can produce uncommon results, because it all starts with that connection and the ability to be on the same page and work together towards the same goal. If you can do that, you'll have the foundation that will really produce some great stuff. And I've seen it happen with things that I've been a part of with Simpatico, and then also outside of Simpatico. So really that one thing would be connect common threads to produce uncommon results.
Would you be willing to share some of the ways that people can get hold of you if they're trying to find out more about you, Simpatico, and or just have a conversation on how they might start increasing the value they provide in their business?
Yeah, 100%. They can visit our website, www.simpatico-consulting.com. We have everything on there that from our mission statement and what it is that we try to do on a daily basis with clients to our services and everything in between. We also are on social media. That's a huge part of leveraging technology to bring that common connection bond together. I'm a big believer, and I'm the person that takes care of those things. So we're on Twitter. That's under my Twitter handle. That aspect, anytime someone connects with me, I will always send them. I try to keep it inside of a day instead of 24 hours. I'm trying to find time in 24 hours to create that 25th hour, and it's not working really great. But I always make that ability to reach out with a personal message and say thank you for connecting and following. Also, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook. So there are multiple avenues in order to connect with us, and not just on a one-to-one consulting basis. I would consider those private services with executive teams or businesses or even entrepreneurs on a one-to-one basis. I spend a lot of time inside of co-working centers and working one-on-one with entrepreneurs that are at the ground level. But we also offer group services, and what a group service would be a keynote engagement. I've done that also, spoken at seminars, done training seminars, multiple ways for us to make that connection. And I always say, anyone tries to get in touch with me, any way that I can help you, I will. So I'd love to hear more and be in contact with more people.
Super. Just what's the best way to find you on LinkedIn? You mentioned that I know that you have a company. Do you have a personal profile on LinkedIn also? Yes.
Yep. My personal profile on LinkedIn is after my name, Christopher Dube. That's Christopher Dube, Dube.
Okay.
You can send me a direct message there, and we can connect by all means.
Okay, and then let everyone on the show know. I will put links to those resources down there. Also, okay. I will find that article that you mentioned earlier that you had done in LinkedIn and have a link to that also. Do you have any other places you'd like me to link to? Do you have any kind of resources available that you'd like me to link, or they can find that all on your website?
You'd find that either on the website or one of the social media avenues. there are other various aspects where I write some articles and put some thought into, but those Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook are really the major players there besides our website.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Christopher. I can, just from you telling the story, I think that, what I kind of take away from it is that idea of value that was created or that you recognize in business is somewhat because of your grandfather and the footwear company, and that you saw that and experienced that really kind of growing up. And you also kind of speak to the fact that when you looked around and were kind of perplexed by why people thought business was so hard, was because the fact that by providing value and treating people well as they grew their business, and you were in the middle of it, again, you weren't sitting outside of it looking in, you were experiencing it. So that's all you knew. Right. So, that value, I think, actually became really an innate part of you. So I think that makes you uniquely qualified, to go out there and share that. And that's why, when I listen to you, I can feel your passion about that. And I think that's part of how you grew up. And, kudos to your family for that. And makes me, excited to help share your message here, so more people can experience that, hopefully, and firsthand. Now, do you only work in the Boston, greater Boston area, or do you take clients outside of Boston?
I do. I work nationwide.
Okay.
And before I even go into that, I just want to say it was my pleasure being here and getting a chance to be part of this. I try often not to talk too much about myself and my background. I want to make it about the client and the whys of us meeting. But I really do appreciate the effort and energy and ability, really, to create a media avenue to have entrepreneurs and people that do this every single day for themselves and for other people and their families to talk about their stories. That's something really powerful and valuable to me. So I want to say thank you to you as well, Jack. I started a business leader organization about 18 months ago called Horizons, and it is an organization really focused on finding people who lead, and it doesn't have any true connection to Simpatico. I think I referenced a couple of times while we were speaking that Simpatico gives me the ability to really meet some truly fantastic people in business. And that is a way for me to meet those people and then be able to introduce them to more of the same. I really try to be a connector in all aspects of the situation. And so my business is nationwide. I have partners and very close colleagues in Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Chicago, San Fran, LA, San Diego. So really there is no, from my perspective, no lines that I wouldn't cross in order to, from a geographic perspective, to help anyone that I could. And met some great people along my career, living in different parts of the country. Want to make sure that I keep those lines of communication and those relationships strong, and it just allows me to be introduced to people that really do some great things. And I'm fortunate to be able to work with some of those people. So not just in the Boston, Massachusetts area, but pretty much all throughout the country. I haven't gone anywhere outside of the United States, the continent of the United States, to do anything yet, but who knows? Who knows what happens in the future?
Yep. Well, hopefully you'll be able to spread your message outside the borders. We'll see if I can't start pinging some of my connections to listen in on the interview and find out what you have to offer. Maybe we can make that happen. Well, again, I just want to say thank you, Chris. I think we're going to wrap it up here for today's interview. Again, if you want to get hold of Chris, you can go to www.simpatico-consulting.com, and you can find him on LinkedIn and on social media. So thanks again, Chris.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Small Business Evangelist radio show with host Jack Schoenberger. To find out more about resources mentioned during this show, or to let us know you're interested in being a featured guest on an upcoming episode, please visit thesmallbusinessevangelist.com.